Just because of one word from his little assistant, the entire company's team-building event was changed to an extreme via ferrata cliff-climbing course. But I was 8 months pregnant. I had just started bleeding, and the doctor had strictly ordered me to stay in bed to save my baby. I held my husband Marcus's hand, begging him to let me stay at the hotel instead of climbing. Before Marcus could even speak, his assistant, Chloe, smiled and cut in. "Sera, you're not looking down on us, are you? It's just a team-building event, but you refuse to join. Do you always have to be so special? It's just climbing a cliff. It's not like we're asking you to give birth right there." The conference room burst into laughter. Marcus's face darkened. "If everyone else can go, why can't you?" Furious, I yelled back at him, "I am carrying your child. Do you want me to risk his life just to show off for your company?" Stunned by my outburst, he quickly changed his tune, telling me I could just rest at the hotel. But the next morning, when I opened my eyes, I found myself tied to a sheer cliff face. Looking down, there was only a bottomless abyss. The safety rope on my harness was just a flimsy, single-line cord. As I reached for my phone to call for help, Chloe's voice drifted down from right above me. "Hang in there, Sera. Marcus personally chose the safest route for you. No one else even got the chance. Don't let his hard work go to waste." Looking at the helicopter hovering in the sky above, I was about to scream curses at them. But what Marcus said next made my blood run dead cold. "Sera, stop using the baby in your belly to threaten me. Because that bastard isn't even mine." I thought I had heard him wrong. "What did you just say?" I stared at the helicopter hovering in midair, my voice shattered by the howling wind. Marcus held a megaphone, a vicious, cold sneer plastered across his face. "Are you deaf? I said the bastard in your womb isn't mine. Ever since I met Chloe, I haven't touched you once in the past year." My brain exploded. Memories of the dark nights over the past year flashed through my mind. Marcus always lit a strange, fragrant incense in the bedroom. He always blindfolded me with a black cloth, claiming it was to add some excitement to our marriage. And I, like an idiot, actually believed his lies. "You sick bastards." I screamed with every ounce of strength left in my lungs. Chloe leaned half her body out of the helicopter, holding a megaphone and laughing hysterically. "Don't be so angry, Sera. The old man's will has already been signed anyway. Marcus has officially inherited the family fortune now. You and that bastard in your belly are completely useless to us." With that, she threw a plastic water bottle right at me. The bottle slammed hard against my forehead, making my vision spin with bright stars. I gripped the rusted iron rungs on the cliff face, the agonizing pain in my abdomen ripping through me in waves. Warm blood had already soaked through my hiking pants, dripping down my legs. "Marcus, I was your wife for 3 years. I screamed in utter despair. "Even if you want a divorce, you don't have to kill me." Marcus looked down at me with nothing but disgust and sheer hatred. "If you don't die, how am I supposed to collect the $80 million accidental death insurance policy? Besides, Chloe is pregnant now. We need to clear away any obstacles for our true love." I froze, staring in shock at Chloe's slightly bloated belly. My heart died completely. This was the man for whom I had abandoned my career and my family. He was a heartless, greedy piece of trash who had absolutely no limits. Just then, a few colleagues from the company climbed up from the route below. Each of them was equipped with heavy-duty double safety ropes and professional helmets. "Oh, look, isn't that Sera?" Leo from the sales department yelled. "Why is her pants covered in blood? Did she wet herself on the cliff?" Ross, the HR manager, gripped the rock with one hand and laughed out loud. "Wetting herself? No way. She probably splashed fake blood on herself to play the victim. Don't you see the boss watching from the helicopter? She's definitely putting on a show to get sympathy." Another female colleague pulled out her phone and aimed it straight at me. "Sera, smile for the camera. Let everyone see how you're dragging the team down." Enduring the agonizing spasms in my abdomen, I screamed to them for help. "Help me. My safety rope is only a single line. It's about to snap. My baby. I'm losing my baby. I'm having a miscarriage." Manager Ross rolled his eyes dramatically. "Just shut up already. Chloe already warned us about you. She said you hired a prop master to make a fake blood pack just to ruin our team-building trip. We're not falling for your tricks." One by one, they climbed right past me, stepping ruthlessly on the iron rungs right next to my fingers. Leo even went out of his way to kick my ankle with his heavy hiking boot. My foot slipped. My entire body weight slammed instantly onto that single, flimsy safety rope. Rydriap. A terrifying tearing sound echoed from the harness around my waist. The cheap safety rope had ripped 1/3 of the way through. My body plummeted violently, leaving me dangling in the empty air against the sheer cliff face. Directly beneath me was a bottomless abyss filled with sharp, jagged rocks.
Ah!
I shrieked in absolute terror. The blood from my thighs flowed faster now, dripping directly onto Leo's face below. Leo wiped his face in disgust, cursing under his breath. Gross. This fake blood smells so real. You really spent a fortune on this, didn't you? He didn't lift a finger to help me. Instead, he climbed up even faster to get away. Up on the helicopter, Chloe clapped her hands in excitement.
Wow.
Bungee jumping. Marcus, look. Sera is about to do a rope-free bungee jump. Marcus sneered and picked up the megaphone again. Sera, if you jump down now, I'll be nice enough to buy you a high-end grave. But if you keep wasting everyone's time like this, I'll dump your ashes straight into the sewer. The pain in my abdomen was so intense that I was on the verge of losing consciousness. I could feel it clearly. The baby I had tried so hard to protect for 8 months was dying inside me. Using the last bit of my strength, I raised my left hand and pressed a hidden red button on the side of my smartwatch. It was a military-grade emergency channel my brother had personally set up for me 3 years ago. Tristan. I whispered weakly into the watch. Lock down the airspace. Immediately.
I'm dying.
Make all of them pay with their lives. Chloe saw my movement through her binoculars and laughed so hard, she cried. Marcus, look at her. She's talking to a stupid watch. Has she gone completely insane from fear? Marcus's face was filled with mockery. She's always been crazy. Her whole family is just a bunch of penniless nobodies from some backwater town. Who is she even calling for help? The mayor of her little village. Hysterical laughter erupted from the helicopter cabin. The walkie-talkies of the colleagues on the cliff broadcasted Marcus's mockery in real time. Everyone on the cliff was laughing at me. She thought she hit the jackpot by marrying the boss, acting so high and mighty in the office. Now karma's finally catching up to her. She deserves it. I bit my lower lip hard, completely ignoring their venomous insults. Only I knew the truth about my family. My grandfather was a highly respected 4-star general. My father was a Wall Street billionaire tycoon. And my brother was the commander of the Joint Special Operations Command. 3 years ago, for the sake of what I thought was true love, I hid my identity and married Marcus. I didn't hesitate to cut ties with my family, enduring endless hardships during these 3 years. Now, I finally saw this devil's den for what it truly was. What's the point of calling your town mayor? Chloe was practically falling over laughing inside the helicopter. She pointed at the military smartwatch on my wrist. Which flea market did you buy that secondhand trash from? Do you really think there's cell service out here in the mountains to call your little helpers? Marcus bellowed through the megaphone in agreement. Sera, even your bluffing is pathetic. Is that brother of yours still carrying bricks at some construction site? If he actually shows up to save you today, I'll jump out of this helicopter myself. The helicopter's massive rotors whipped up violent gusts of wind. The wind tangled my hair across my face. My face was covered in cold sweat and tears of despair. I stared cold-hard at the man in the designer suit hovering in the air. That $10,000 custom suit he was wearing was bought with my own secret savings. I remembered a rainy night 3 years ago. Marcus had knelt outside my apartment door, completely stripped of his dignity. Soaked to the bone, he clung to my legs and swore an oath. Sera, I might be poor right now, but I swear I will never let you suffer. Not even a little bit. If anyone dares to touch a single hair on your head, I'll fight them to the death. I am going to make you the happiest woman in the world. Those were his exact words. And for those cheap, worthless promises, I had blocked my entire family's contact numbers without hesitation. I willingly lived in a damp, dark basement with him, eating the cheapest instant noodles. I stayed up all night writing business proposals for him, bringing him clients and resources. In just 3 years, I dragged him up from a low-level salesman to the CEO of his own company. But everything changed 6 months ago when Chloe joined the company. Chloe drove a luxury car to work. She flaunted her new designer bags every single day. She dropped constant hints to everyone that she was the daughter of a wealthy tycoon. Marcus's eyes grew greedier every time he looked at her. He started finding excuses to stay out all night. He began complaining that I didn't know how to dress, mocking me for smelling like a poor nobody. I thought he was just letting his fast success get to his head. I never imagined he had already hopped into bed with Chloe, let alone that they were plotting my death. Marcus, what did I ever do to deserve this? I screamed into the sky with everything I had. I suffered with you. I built your company with you. Why do you have to kill me in such a cruel way? Hearing my accusation, Marcus's face turned incredibly dark. He sneered in disgust from the helicopter. You helped me build the company? You're a penniless girl who couldn't even afford college tuition. What could you possibly do to help me? If Chloe's father hadn't promised to invest $50 million in my company, I would have been dragged down by you for the rest of my life. Chloe proudly stroked her slightly rounded belly. She looked down at me with supreme contempt. Sera, you need to know your place. Marcus is a multimillionaire CEO now. You don't belong in his world. Only the noble bloodline in my belly is fit to inherit the Vance family fortune. I felt my stomach churn violently. Blood was still dripping down my legs. My inner thighs were completely numb. The 8-month-old baby in my womb had gone completely still. It was the little life I had cherished and looked forward to for 8 long months. Now it was just a cold, lifeless soul. Seeing that I had stopped struggling, the colleagues below climbed up even more aggressively. Ross, the HR manager, pulled out a crumpled document. Holding onto his safety rope with one hand, he slapped the document hard against my leg. Sera, stop being so stubborn. The boss just said that if you sign over all your founder shares in the company for free, he'll show some mercy and let the rescue team pull you up. I looked down at the stock transfer agreement covered in my own blood. Finally, I understood Marcus's entire master plan. Not only did he want to steal my $80 million insurance money, he wanted to completely swallow the very company I had secretly built for him from the ground up. In your dreams, I spat, biting my lips so hard that blood sprayed onto the paper. I would rather die than let you disgusting parasites get a single penny. Marcus completely lost his patience. He shoved the pilot aside and grabbed the helicopter's controls. The helicopter suddenly dipped, diving dangerously close to the cliff where I hung. The massive downdraft from the rotors instantly created a violent storm. The single safety line holding me began to rip apart under the immense strain. Since you want to play the hero, then go die with your worthless pride. Marcus roared through the megaphone.
Lao.
Help our dear director, Sera, on her way. Once it's done, the vice president position is yours. Hearing those words, Leo's eyes lit up with absolute greed. Without a second thought, he unclipped his backup safety hook. Using the iron rungs, he climbed rapidly until he was directly beneath me. He reached up and grabbed my dangling right foot with both hands. Sorry, Sera, Leo screamed, his face twisted in a monstrous grin. But you're standing in the way of my promotion.
Just drop already.
He pulled down on my leg with all his might. My body was yanked violently downward by the force. At last, the safety rope around my waist gave its final, sharp snap.
Snap.
The cheap nylon rope broke, completely in two. My body lost all support, plunging straight down toward the rocky abyss.
Ah.
I screamed as the sensation of weightlessness instantly swallowed me. But in the very next second of my rapid fall, my 10 fingers clawed desperately at a sharp, protruding rock edge on the cliff. The massive force of my fall instantly tore the muscles in my shoulders. The agonizing pain of dislocating both shoulders almost made me black out. Below me was the endless, rocky void. I was hanging on by nothing but 10 bloody fingers, clinging desperately to the edge of the cliff. Oh my, this street dog just refuses to die. Chloe shrieked in frustration from the helicopter. She turned around and grabbed a baseball bat from the cabin. Marcus, get the helicopter closer. I want to knock her down myself. Without hesitation, Marcus maneuvered the helicopter closer to me. The landing gear was almost touching the top of my head. Chloe leaned halfway out of the cabin. She raised the baseball bat, aiming straight at my hands gripping the rock. In your next life, remember to keep your eyes open. Don't touch things that don't belong to you. She brought the bat down hard onto my left hand. Crack. The skin on my left hand split instantly, exposing white bone underneath. My entire body convulsed in pure agony, leaving only my right hand to hold the entire weight of my body. A few meters above, Leo laughed mockingly.
Sera.
Weren't you always so capable at the office? Why don't you call your little town mayor brother again? Manager Ross joined in on the mockery. Her phone fell down the cliff. How is she going to call anyone? Maybe her brother is eating scraps under some bridge right now. Before their laughter could fade, my smartwatch vibrated gently against my wrist. I looked up at the sky. Exactly 180 seconds had passed since I pressed the emergency button. My brother had told me once. The moment I pressed that red button, the entire Special Operations Command would arrive, fully armed, within 3 minutes. Suddenly, a deep, deafening rumble echoed through the sky like thunder. Marcus looked up confused. Chloe stopped swinging the bat. On the cliff, every single colleague looked up at the sky in unison. In the next second, the entire sky over the mountain range went dark. The sun was completely blocked out. 20 pitch-black, heavy-duty military attack helicopters ripped through the clouds like a tidal wave of black steel. The terrifying downdraft from the military choppers sent Marcus's small civilian helicopter spinning wildly out of control.
Ah!
Help! The helicopter is going down. Chloe screamed, dropping the baseball bat and clinging onto the co-pilot's seat for dear life. Marcus fought the controls frantically, his face turning pale as a sheet. What is going on? Is there a military exercise here today? Why wasn't there any airspace restriction notice? The sky did not merely darken, it shattered. The deafening roar of twin-turbine engines tore through the mountain air, shaking the ancient granite cliff face until pebbles rained down into the void. 20 dark gray Black Hawk and Apache attack helicopters dropped out of the heavy cloud cover in a tight, aggressive formation. Their heavy rotors created a terrifying vortex of wind that instantly slammed into Marcus's small, civilian helicopter like a physical wall. Mayday! Mayday!
Control is lost.
The pilot inside Marcus's chopper screamed into his headset, frantically fighting the cyclic stick as the aircraft spun 90 degrees into a violent tailspin. Marcus! What's happening? Chloe shrieked, her face turning from flushed red to the sickly gray of wet ash. Her designer sunglasses flew off into the slipstream as she clutched the co-pilot's door handle, her fake designer purse, spilling thousands of dollars in cash out into the open air. Up in the lead Black Hawk, a side door slid back with a heavy metallic clack. Standing in the open doorway, wearing full tactical armor without a harness, was a man over 6 feet tall. His cold, dark eyes were deadlocked on the fragile figure hanging by a single hand on the cliff face. Tristan Kingsley, commander of the Joint Special Operations Command. Target sighted, Tristan spoke into his tactical throat mic, his voice steady as liquid nitrogen, though the veins on his neck bulged with raw, lethal fury. Primary objective is my sister. Snipers, cover the perimeter. Rappel Team 1.
Move.
Anyone on that rock face who moves toward her gets a high-caliber round through the shoulder. Copy that, Commander. Before Marcus or his terrified colleagues could comprehend what was happening, 6 thick steel cables plunged from the bellies of 3 hovering Black Hawks. Elite operators clad in black tactical gear slid down the lines with terrifying speed and precision. On the cliff face, Leo was still staring up, his mouth wide open. Is this a movie shoot? Boss, did you rent these for publicity? Shut up, you idiot. Ross yelled, his knuckles white as he clung to the iron
Rungs.
Civilian choppers can't get military escorts like this. Look at the emblems on those birds. Before Leo could react, a boot heavy enough to break steel slammed directly into
his chest. Arg.
Leo gagged as his ribs cracked. An elite operator landed squarely above him on the narrow ledge, hooking a secondary safety line onto his tactical belt, while a heavy gloved hand clamped around Leo's throat like a vice. Move a single muscle, the operator growled into Leo's ear, pressing the cold barrel of a suppressed sidearm against his temple, and I'll paint this rock with your brain matter. At the exact same time, 2 operators landed right beside Sera.
Mung.
Do not let go, one of them yelled, his hands swiftly securing a heavy-duty titanium rescue harness under her shoulders and thighs. We have you. I repeat, the commander has you. Sera's right hand, slick with blood and split down to the bone, finally gave
out.
She felt herself slipping into the cold abyss, but before she could fall even an inch, strong arms hauled her back against the secure chest of the operator. Got her. Raising target now. A winch cable snapped taut, lifting Sera rapidly toward the open door of the lead Black Hawk. As she rose above the cliff line, her blood-soaked body swung past the spinning rotors of Marcus's struggling chopper. Marcus stared through the glass windshield, his eyes nearly popping out of their sockets as he saw Sera being pulled up into a machine that bore the gold and black crest of the Joint Special Operations Command. No way. Marcus stammered, his fingers numb against the megaphone. She's just a nobody from the countryside. Her brother carries bricks. The Black Hawk's side door opened wide as Sera was pulled inside. Waiting there wasn't just a tactical crew, but an entire mobile trauma unit, equipped with portable monitors and blood bags. Tristan caught her in his arms, pulling her onto the padded gurney.
Sera?
Tristan's voice finally cracked. The ruthless military commander, a man who had faced down warlords without blinking, dropped to his knees on the steel floor of the helicopter. His hands hovered over her torn shoulders, terrified that touching her might cause more pain. Sera, I'm here. Tristan's here. Tristan. Sera sobbed, her lips trembling, pale as marble. She grabbed his tactical vest with her broken, bloody fingers. My baby. Tristan, save my babe. Marcus, he tried to kill my baby. Medics. Move. Tristan roared, turning his head toward the back of the cabin. 3 chief military trauma surgeons rushed forward. Commander, she's lost. Massive amounts of blood. Internal hemorrhaging. We need an emergency C-section. Right now, mid-flight. Then do it. Tristan barked. He grabbed Sera's uninjured wrist, tears mixing with the camouflage paint on his cheeks. Hold on, little sister. You hear me?
Hold on.
Grandfather and father are waiting for you at the military hospital in the capital. You're not dying today. Not on my watch. Outside, Marcus's chopper was forced down onto a flat ridge half a mile away by 2 Apache gunships hovering just 30 feet above his main rotor. The wind from their blades shattered the civilian chopper's windows, filling the cabin with swirling glass shards and dust. As soon as Marcus's chopper touched the ground, 4 heavily armed operators ripped the doors open and dragged Marcus and Chloe out by their hair, slamming them face first into the mud and sharp rocks. Get your filthy hands off me, Chloe shrieked, her face smeared with mud and her luxury dress torn to ribbons. Do you know who my father is?
He's the
Chairman of the Grand Horizon Group. He has $50 million invested in this
company.
You touch me again, and I'll have all of your uniforms stripped. An operator didn't even bother answering. He kicked her in the ribs, flipping her onto her back, and slammed heavy steel hand restraints over her wrists. Marcus was pinned beneath a heavy boot, his face pressed against a jagged stone. His $10,000 custom suit was torn, soaked in muddy water. Wait, there's a mistake, Marcus screamed, his voice cracking with panic. I am Marcus Vance. I'm the CEO of Vance Technologies. My wife is just mentally unstable. She threw herself off the cliff. I was trying to save her. From the sky above, a massive white transport helicopter with 3 rotors began its slow descent. Unlike the matte black attack choppers, this craft bore the crest of the Global Banking Federation and the official seal of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. The side door slid open before the wheels even touched the dirt. A tall, white-haired old man stepped out, wearing a full 4-star general's dress uniform loaded with medals across his chest. Beside him stood a middle-aged man in a dark charcoal suit, carrying an aura of absolute authority that made the air feel heavy. General Arthur Kingsley. And Richard Kingsley, the Wall Street tycoon who controlled 40% of the continent's private equity. Marcus turned his head with great effort, his eyes widening in horror as he recognized the face of the middle-aged man from the covers of Forbes and Bloomberg. Richard Kingsley? Marcus gasped, his blood running colder than the mountain wind. The king of Wall Street? Why is he here? Richard Kingsley didn't look at Marcus. His eyes were fixed on the sky, where the medical helicopter carrying his daughter was speeding away toward the capital. His face was twisted in a mixture of heartbreak and pure, unadulterated malice. He walked over to where Marcus lay in the mud, stopping right beside Marcus's head. 3 years ago, Richard spoke, his voice low, sounding like grinding tectonic plates. My daughter ran away from home because she thought a poor, ambitious young man was worth turning her back on $1 billion empire for. He slowly knelt down, grabbing Marcus by his torn collar and lifting his head out of the mud. I gave her $100 million in secret seed capital, routed through offshore trusts, just so she could secretly fund your little startup without hurting your pathetic male pride. Marcus froze. His mind short-circuited. What did you just say? Vance Technologies? Richard let out a terrifying, dry laugh. You thought those angel investors fell from the sky? You thought those multi-million-dollar contracts signed themselves? Every single penny of your company came from the Kingsley family. Richard leaned in close, his cold eyes staring directly into Marcus's trembling pupils. And you treated my princess like garbage. You let her live in a dark basement. You made her write your proposals. And today, you tried to murder her on a cliff for $80 million of insurance. Marcus felt as if a thunderbolt had struck his brain. His eyes bulged as the world around him spun out of control. Sera wasn't a nameless girl from a backwater village. She was the sole heiress to the ultimate elite dynasty of both the military and financial worlds. No, that's impossible. Chloe screamed from the mud, her voice shrill and full of denial. She's a fake. Marcus told me her family carries bricks in some mountain village. She's a poor nobody. General Arthur Kingsley slowly turned his head toward Chloe, his cold, veteran gaze cut through her like a bayonet. Silent her, the general commanded softly. An operator stepped forward and smashed the butt of his rifle directly into Chloe's mouth. Blood and shattered teeth sprayed across the grass as Chloe let out a muffled howl of agony, rolling on the ground while clutching her destroyed mouth. Check the girl's background, Richard ordered his secretary, who stood behind him holding an encrypted satellite tablet. Find out who her father is.
Destroy
Every asset tied to her family by sunset. Yes, Mr. Kingsley, the secretary replied instantly. Searching now.
Chloe.
Bennett. Father. George Bennett. The secretary glanced at the screen, a look of utter disgust crossing his face. Sir, George Bennett is not a chairman of anything. He is a convicted fraudster, currently on the run from federal marshals, operating a fake front company in an offshore shell account. His total net worth is negative $12 million. Marcus's entire body went rigid. He slowly turned his bloody face toward Chloe, who was weeping in the dirt, blood leaking through her fingers. What? Marcus whispered, his voice trembling in utter shock. Chloe, your father's $50 million investment, your luxury cars, your family's estate in the capital. She rented the cars, sir, the secretary added flatly, holding up the financial records. Paid for using your company's credit card, which you authorized her to use 3 months ago. She spent nearly $2 million of Vance Technologies operational funds on her personal wardrobe and fake socialite lifestyle. Marcus let out a guttural, insane roar of anguish. He had betrayed the real heiress of a multi-billion-dollar dynasty, the woman who had given him everything and built his empire from scratch, for a broke, lying scammer who was using his own money to fool him. I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot. Marcus slammed his own forehead repeatedly against the jagged rocks until his skin split open, tears of absolute regret mixing with his blood.
Sera.
I was wrong. I was tricked. It's too late for tears, Vance, Richard said, stepping back with complete contempt. Tristan, how is the situation at the hospital? Tristan's voice came through the encrypted comms earpiece. Father, Sera is in the ICU at the Central Military Hospital. The doctors managed to perform the emergency C-section mid-flight. Richard's hands clenched into tight fists, his knuckles turning white.
And the
baby. There was a long, terrifying pause on the line. The baby is alive, Tristan said, his voice choking with heavy emotion. It's a boy, but he only weighs 3 pounds. He's severely hypothermic from the bleeding and stress, and his heartbeat is extremely weak. The surgeons say the next 24 hours are critical. Upon hearing that the child was alive, Marcus's eyes suddenly flared with a desperate, twisted light. He crawled forward on his knees, begging Richard at the top of his lungs. Father-in-law, hear me out, Marcus cried, his face covered in blood and mud. The baby is alive. That's my son. That's your grandson. For the sake of the baby, give me a chance. I was blinded by this evil woman.
Chloe.
Drugged me. She seduced me. Your son? Richard looked down at him, as if looking at a pile of rotting garbage. Did you forget what you said to Sera through that megaphone on the
cliff?
I was lying. I was just trying to hurt her pride. Marcus screamed, hysterically, slapping his own face wildly. I swear it. I'm the father. I lit that incense because Chloe told me it was a relaxing aid. I blindfolded her because I was stupid. But I never brought anyone else into that room. The baby is mine. He's a Vance. Shut your filthy mouth. General Arthur Kingsley stepped forward, his heavy military boots making a deep thud on the dirt. The old general raised his walking stick, a solid titanium shaft, and slammed it hard against Marcus's right knee. Crack. Aff. Marcus shrieked, his knee bending at an unnatural 90-degree angle. As he collapsed onto the ground, writhing in unimaginable agony. You don't deserve to speak the name of my great-grandson, General Kingsley said coldly, his eyes burning with ancient rage. Even if that child carries a fraction of your worthless blood, he is a Kingsley now. You will never see him. You will never hold him. And by the time we are finished with you, you will pray for the sweet mercy of death. Take them all, General Kingsley commanded the operators, the executive team. On the cliff face, this fake socialite, and this piece of trash. Bring them to The underground interrogation center at Base 09. I want full confessions regarding the insurance fraud, the attempted murder, and the financial embezzlement before midnight. Sir, yes, sir. Dozens of armed soldiers moved in, dragging Marcus, Chloe, Leo, and Ross toward the heavy transport helicopters like livestock destined for the slaughterhouse. Leo was sobbing so hard he hyperventilated. I just wanted a promotion. I was just following orders. HR manager Ross told me to kick her. It was Ross. You little rat, Ross screamed, trying to bite Leo despite his bound hands. You were the one who pulled her leg down. I have it all recorded on my phone. Save your breath, the squad leader sneered, slamming the back door of the transport chopper shut. You'll have plenty of time to talk to each other in the dark. 3 hours later, Capital City, Central Military Hospital. The entire floor of the intensive care unit was placed under military lockdown. Fully armed soldiers guarded every door and elevator. Inside the glass-walled nursery, a tiny baby boy lay inside an advanced neonatal incubator, surrounded by complex life support monitors. His tiny chest rose and fell shallowly, hooked up to miniature breathing tubes. Outside the glass, Sera sat in a wheelchair, wrapped in a warm wool blanket. Her hands were heavily bandaged, and her face was pale, but her eyes, once filled with despair, were now cold, clear, and sharp as surgical steel. Standing beside her were Richard, General Arthur, and Tristan. Sera, Richard spoke gently, placing a hand on her shoulder. The best medical team in the nation is here. The baby will survive. The doctors assured us his vitals are stabilizing. Sera looked at her newborn son through the glass. A single tear rolled down her cheek, but she didn't wipe it away. Father, she said softly, her voice raspy but steady. What is the status of Vance Technologies? It's being liquidated as we speak, Richard replied flatly. I activated the clawback provisions in the offshore trust agreements. All funding provided to Marcus's company over the last 3 years has been legally reclassified as high-interest emergency debt, instantly defaulted. He pulled out a tablet and handed it to her. An hour ago, the SEC launched a full audit into Vance Technologies for corporate fraud, tax evasion, and insider trading. The board of directors has fled, the stock has dropped to zero, and the company is officially bankrupt. Sera looked at the financial charts plunging straight into the abyss.
What?
About the $80 million accidental death policy Marcus took out on me? Tristan sneered from the corner. The insurance company was founded by father's old business partner. When Marcus submitted the claim this afternoon claiming, "You accidental fell off a cliff," they immediately flagged it as premeditated murder. The police and federal prosecutors have already filed formal capital murder charges against him. Sera closed her eyes for a moment, letting the heavy weight of 3 years of foolish love and betrayal melt away into cold, mathematical vengeance. He thought I was useless, Sera whispered, opening her eyes. Her gaze was colder than absolute zero. He thought I was a helpless dog he could kick into the abyss once he was done using me. She turned her wheelchair around to face her father and brother. Father, Tristan, I want to personally handle his final trial. Whatever you want, sweetheart, Richard said, his eyes filled with fierce
pride.
The entire world is yours to command. What do you want to do with him? He loves money, status, and vanity more than human life, Sera said calmly.
So,
I won't kill him quickly. I want to take away every single thing he ever dreamed of owning in front of the entire country. I want him to know that every breath he took, every suit he wore, and every dollar he spent was entirely given to him, by me and taken back by me. Just then, Tristan's tactical communicator buzzed. He picked it up, listened for a few seconds, and a dark grin spread across his
face.
Sera, the boys at Base 09 just finished processing the interrogation, Tristan
said.
We found something very interesting in Marcus's personal safe at his penthouse. What? Sera asked. The incense and blindfold trick, Tristan said, his voice dropping into a dark tone. We ran a forensic toxicological report on the incense residue and checked his secret bank accounts. Marcus never brought another man into your room. Sera froze.
What do you mean?
He was using a high-potency hallucinogenic sedative, a banned military-grade nerve chemical he bought on the dark web, Tristan explained. It causes severe memory confusion and sensory distortion. He used it on you for months so you would wake up feeling disoriented and sick, creating a fake paper trail of psychological instability. Tristan's jaw clenched tightly. He wanted to establish a legal record that you were mentally unfit and unfaithful, so when he pushed you off that cliff, no court would question his narrative that you were an unstable, cheating wife who committed suicide out of guilt. Hearing this, Sera's hands clenched so hard the bandages on her palms began to bleed fresh red again. He hadn't just tried to murder her. He had systematically gaslit her, poisoned her body with illegal drugs while she was pregnant, and attempted to ruin her dignity as a woman even in death. Monsters. General Arthur Kingsley spat, slamming his fist against the wall. Absolute filth. Tristan, prepare the military tribunal. We are not waiting for the civilian courts. No, grandfather, Sera interrupted softly, her voice echoing in the quiet hallway. A secret military tribunal is too quiet. He wants to be famous?
He
Wants to be a high society CEO? She looked up at her family, a terrifying, beautiful smile touching her pale
lips.
We will hold a public press conference tomorrow at the Vance Technologies
Headquarters building.
Invite every media outlet, every business leader, and every investor in the country. I will give Marcus Vance the grand stage he always wanted. The following morning, 10 a.m., the Grand Press Auditorium of the Vance Technologies headquarters was packed to maximum capacity. Over 200 journalists, dozens of camera crews, and prominent Wall Street analysts filled the room. Live streams were broadcast nationwide, attracting over 30 million viewers. Within minutes, the headline was staggering. Breakthrough in Vance Technologies fraud, tragic cliff accident or premeditated murder? On the main stage stood a massive digital screen. Below the stage, heavily guarded by armed military police in dress uniforms, sat Marcus, Chloe, Leo, and Ross. Marcus was sitting in a wheelchair, his right leg encased in a heavy cast from the general's cane strike. His clothes were prison jumpsuits, his hair was messy, and his bloodshot eyes darted around the room in absolute terror. Beside him, Chloe's jaw was wired shut with metal braces, her face swollen and bruised, weeping silently as she clutched her orange jumpsuit. Leo and Ross were trembling like leaves, their hands cuffed to their chairs. Silence. A voice boomed across the auditorium. The side door opened, and Sera stepped out. She was not in a wheelchair today. Wearing a tailored white, double-breasted suit, her dark hair pulled back into a sharp, sleek ponytail, she walked onto the stage with perfect grace and unyielding authority. Her hands were still, wrapped in thin white medical gloves, but her posture was that of an absolute
Queen.
Behind her walked Richard Kingsley and General Arthur Kingsley. The room erupted into a frenzy of camera flashes. It's Sera, the CEO's wife. Look at her hands. She was really hanging off that cliff. Wait, who are those two behind her? Is that General Kingsley and Richard Kingsley? Sera walked up to the podium, adjusting the microphone calmly. She didn't look at Marcus immediately. Instead, she swept her eyes over the sea of reporters. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Sera spoke, her voice clear, echoing with absolute precision through the loudspeakers. Today was supposed to be the day. Vance Technologies announced its new $50 million Series C funding round. She paused, taking a remote control from her pocket. However, as the founder, primary IP holder, and 90% shareholder of Vance Technologies, I am announcing the immediate liquidation and complete permanent closure of this company. A massive gasp went through the audience. Marcus struggled against his restraints, screaming through his bruised lips.
Sera.
You can't do that. That's my company. I am the CEO. You have no right. Sera finally turned her gaze toward Marcus. Her eyes were as vast and cold as an Arctic waste. Your company, Marcus? Sera clicked the remote. The massive digital screen behind her lit up. Documents began scrolling down at blinding speed. Bank records, patent filings, corporate registry documents, and offshore trust transfers. 3 years ago, Sera said, her voice dropping into a chilling cadence. Marcus Vance was a fired salesman with $40,000 in credit card
debt.
I paid off his debts using my personal family trust.
Click.
The core software architecture that powers Vance Technologies' entire product.
Line.
Patented 3 years ago under my maiden name, Sera Kingsley. Marcus Vance does not own a single line of code.
Click.
The $10 million initial seed capital? Funded by Kingsley International. Investments, under the explicit condition that I hold veto power over all corporate actions. The reporters went wild. Cameras clicked furiously as the documents were broadcast live across the entire internet. The chat room on the nationwide live stream was exploding. Holy crap. The CEO was literally a puppet live-in parasite.
She's a.
Kingsley, as in the Kingsley family, he threw a multi-billionaire heiress off a cliff for a fake socialite. Is this guy brain dead? Marcus's face turned from pale to completely purple. He looked at the screen, then at Sera, his throat emitting dry, strangled gasps.
No.
No, I built it. I did the sales. I worked hard. Marcus whimpered, tears of pure shame pouring down his face. Sera, please leave me. Some dignity. Dignity. Sera smiled, a cold, sharp curl of her lips. Did you leave me any dignity when you tied me to a cliff while I was bleeding, carrying your child? She clicked the remote again. Audio speakers throughout the auditorium suddenly played a loud, high-definition audio file. Sera, stop using the baby in your belly to threaten me. Because that bastard isn't even mine. If you don't die, how am I supposed to collect the $80 million accidental death insurance policy? Besides, Chloe is pregnant now.
We
need to clear away any obstacles for our true love. Marcus's own voice echoed with crystal clear precision through the huge auditorium. The entire hall went dead silent for 2 full seconds before bursting into a storm of screams and curses. Monster. He's an absolute monster. He tried to kill his pregnant wife for insurance. Lock him up. Execute him. Chloe buried her face in her hands, sobbing uncontrollably as the camera crews zoomed directly into her swollen, bruised face. And as for your true love, Chloe Bennett, Sera continued, her voice unfazed by the chaos.
Click.
A criminal background check and mugshot appeared on the screen, alongside a series of luxury car rental receipts and fake bank balance statements. Chloe Bennett's father is currently a fugitive wanted by the FBI for scamming senior citizens out of their life savings. Her net worth is zero. The $50 million investment she promised you was a complete lie to scam you out of luxury items, which she paid for using Vance Technologies' corporate accounts. Marcus turned his head slowly toward Chloe. His eyes were completely bloodshot, filled with an unhinged, violent rage. You fake bitch. Marcus screamed, throwing his body out of his wheelchair, dragging his broken leg across the floor as he lunged toward Chloe. You ruined my life. You made me lose everything. I'll kill you. Before he could reach her, 2 military police officers stepped forward, slamming their boots onto Marcus's back and pinning him flat against the hard marble floor. Get off me. I'm the CEO. I'm a multimillionaire, Marcus screamed, hysterically, eating dust from the floor as he wept.
Sera.
Save me. I was
wrong.
I love you. I've always loved you. It was all Chloe. She forced me. Sera stepped down from the stage, walking slowly until she stood right in front of Marcus's pinned face. She looked down at him, her eyes completely devoid of anger, pity, or love. There was only absolute, cosmic emptiness. Marcus, she whispered, leaning down slightly, so only he could hear her final words. You said yesterday that if my brother actually showed up to save me, you would jump out of that helicopter yourself. She straightened up, pulling off her white medical gloves and tossing them onto his bloody face. Don't worry, you won't have to jump. Where you're going, you'll never see the sky again. The legal hammer fell with unprecedented speed and terrifying severity, because the attack occurred on a designated high-altitude military training zone and involved the direct endangerment of the daughter of a 4-star general and the commander of JSOC. The case was transferred directly to the Special Federal Military Tribunal. There was no public jury, no lengthy appeals.
No bail.
2 weeks later, high-security federal penitentiary, Sector 9. The courtroom was dimly lit, carved from solid underground concrete.
Sitting
behind the high bench were 3 military judges in full dress uniform. In the defense box sat Marcus, Chloe, Leo, and Ross. All 4 were dressed in gray prison jumpsuits, shaved heads, and heavy iron shackles around their wrists and ankles. The head judge slammed the wooden gavel down. The sound echoed like a gunshot in the quiet room. For the charges of attempted murder, high-altitude terrorism, military airspace interference, multi-million-dollar corporate fraud, and chemical poisoning of a pregnant civilian. The judge looked over his glasses at the 4 defendants. Marcus Vance. Marcus stood up shakingly, his face gaunt, his eyes sunken and completely devoid of life. You are sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole at Supermax Prison Alpha. The judge read coldly. All personal and corporate Assets are hereby seized and transferred to the victim. Furthermore, your parental rights are permanently severed and erased from all public records. Marcus didn't even scream. He simply collapsed back into his seat, his eyes staring blankly at the cold concrete table. Life in a supermax prison, 23 hours a day in a windowless steel cell, 6 feet under the ground, with no human contact for the rest of his life. Chloe Bennett. Chloe trembled violently, her hands shaking so hard the iron chains rattled. Loudly. You are sentenced to 35 years imprisonment for conspiracy to commit murder, wire fraud, and grand larceny. Leo Vance and Ross Miller. The two former colleagues fell to their knees, weeping loudly, banging their heads against the floor. Your Honor, we were just following orders.
Please.
Have mercy. For active participation in attempted murder and bodily harm, the judge continued coldly. You are each sentenced to 25 years in maximum security, federal custody. Gavel slam. Court adjourned. As the armed guards pulled the 4 convicts up to lead them down the dark, narrow hallway toward the transport vans, Marcus suddenly turned his head back. Standing at the back of the courtroom gallery, dressed in an elegant black coat, was Sera. She was holding a tiny, warm bundle wrapped in a blue cashmere blanket in her arms. The baby boy was healthy now, his tiny face pink and round, sleeping soundly against his mother's chest.
Sera?
Marcus rasped, his voice sounding like dry sandpaper. He reached out, his chained hands toward her, tears streaming down his hollow cheeks. Let me just look at my son, once, please, just one look. Sera looked at him across the cold courtroom. She didn't say a word. She simply turned around, placing her hand gently over her baby's tiny ear to block out the harsh noise of the iron chains, and walked out into the bright, warm sunlight waiting outside the heavy steel doors. Behind her, the iron doors of the underground tribunal closed with a massive, final boom.
Bang.
The darkness swallowed Marcus whole. 1 year later, the Capital Financial Center, Kingsley Tower. On the 78th floor, in a massive corner office overlooking the sprawling skyline of the capital city, the floor-to-ceiling glass windows reflected the bright golden rays of the morning sun. Sera stood by the glass, holding a crystal glass of warm water. She wore a charcoal-tailored suit, her demeanor radiating absolute authority and calm confidence. She was no longer the quiet, self-sacrificing wife who lived in a dark basement and ate cheap noodles. She was the vice chairman of Kingsley International and the sole managing partner of the newly formed Kingsley Technology Fund. Knock, knock. Come in, Sera said softly. The door opened, and Tristan walked in, wearing his sleek military service uniform. He was holding a file in his hand and carried a small toy wooden helicopter under his arm. Where is my nephew? Tristan asked, a rare, warm smile breaking across his hard face. He's in the daycare suite downstairs with grandfather, Sera laughed lightly. Grandfather insists on teaching a 1-year-old baby how to read tactical maps. Tristan chuckled, setting the wooden toy on the desk. Sounds like the general. He handed the file to Sera. Thought you might want to see the final update on the Sector 9 inmates. Sera took the file, glancing at it casually. Marcus Vance tried to file 3 separate petitions for mental asylum last month, Tristan said flatly. All were rejected. He works 12 hours a day in the prison coal mines. The guards say he talks to the wall every night, calling out your name and begging for forgiveness. And Chloe? She got into a fight in the prison yard 6 months ago over food rations.
Lost.
3 fingers. Her father was arrested in Mexico last week and extradited. He's sitting in the cell right next to her. Leo and Ross. Working in the prison laundry. They hate each other so much they have to be kept in separate blocks or they try to strangle each other. Sera closed the file without reading any further. She threw it straight into the paper shredder beside her desk. The machine whirred, turning the names and fates of those bitter, greedy people into useless gray dust. They don't matter anymore, Sera said, looking back out at the vast, endless sky above the city. That's right. Tristan stood beside her, placing a heavy, protective hand on her shoulder. They were just a bump on the road. The Kingsley family is back, where it belongs. And you, Sera, you're stronger than you've ever been. Down on the floor, the golden sunlight caught the reflection of her military smartwatch, the very watch that had summoned thunder from the sky when she was hanging by a thread over the abyss. Sera looked at her reflection in the glass. The girl who fell off the cliff was dead. The woman standing here today was invincible. She turned around, picked up her coffee, and smiled. Let's go downstairs, Tristan. My son is waiting for us.